Thursday, March 28th, 2018. I'm here with Russell Burke. We're going to initiate a dreamscaping session with him. And Russell, I'm going to give you a brief recap of what dreamscaping is. And essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to access a memory which elicits positive emotion of an individual or a place or a pet even, which I hate to call a thing, where you cannot return to them any longer. You cannot return to this place, to this person, to this pet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a number of questions that begins with the most simple, which is, what is your favorite memory of this person, thing, or place? And I'm going to ask you to be as detailed as possible about every visual and sensory detail of that memory. And as we pull out more and more of these details, they become the building blocks of a new memory, which I call the prescriptive memory. Okay, so that's essentially what's happening. And so let's take a few deep breaths to ground ourselves after this very exciting morning. And I'll let you think about what we would like to concentrate on. And I will take notes throughout for our transcript.
I was about 9. We didn't lose touch entirely because Dad would write, but mostly for that was for 11 months. And so for 11 months, we were without any direct contact, only through mail.
Okay. And you were 9 years old, and your mother was how old?
My mother?
Yeah, just roughly.
She would have been, I think, about 34, 35, something like that.
Okay. And were there any other children in the household?
Yes. I have 3 sisters, and my first sister is 2.5 years younger than me. My second is 5.5 years younger, and my third is 8.5 years younger.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. All right. So there, you were doing this school project, and just out of curiosity, what kind of questions do you remember you got from that class presentation? Or was it a presentation, or you just handed it in? Did you get any questions that were comforting, or just the opposite from that?
I don't remember any questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I would, I don't want to really think about it, because that may get me off in the wrong direction.
All right. Let's shift to your last.
No, I'm not saying it's not okay for that to be in my mind. I just don't want my mind to be misleading us.
Okay, no, that's fine. And in fact, as far as I'm concerned, dreamscaping is much more concerned with your emotional truth, what you feel you remember, as opposed to something that can be corroborated or that has witnesses. It's not important. At least it's not important to me at this moment.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like my feelings about the making the map?
I think I would like it, because I think there are some positive feelings there. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I had a feeling that I was connecting with my father by connecting with this creation of the space that he was in. We had my dad would send slides of himself and what he was doing, and so we could connect that with the. I could connect that with the map, although I never had any particular location or any. I'm sure at some point I had the name of wherever he was and the scenes that he was showing us, but I don't remember those. But anyway, it was really fun to see those things, and fun to think, this is where Dad is. This is where Dad is at that well, which is where the donkey is um, uh, pulling the water up to another level and spilling it into a ditch or a cistern or something. This is where Dad is growing dates, and this is my dad with a goatee and a mustache, which I don't ever remember him having before, and things like that. Well, that's all I can remember right now.
That's terrific. So it's really your father being converted into a Lawrence of Arabia type figure. I mean, there was, right, a sort of exotic locale, and also how was your father doing with language over there as well?
I don't think he did anything with Arabic, and I think that whatever he did was with the Saudis speaking English.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what was the what was the update on your father when he finally left this place? When did he reunite with the family?
He reunited with us in the spring or summer of the next year. I think it was 1948. He had wanted to go to Jerusalem, but I think that he was not able to do that because of the war. And so he went to Egypt, Cairo, Damascus, and then spent about a month traveling to those places, Geneva, London. Dad was a horticulturist and became a landscape architect. Well, he was using that as time to kind of scope out the world and see what some of the rest of the world does in terms of plantings and maintenance of plantings.
But Russell, did he come back home before he went on those trips? On those exploratory trips, or did he go straight to those places?
Well, he went straight to those places, and then he was doing sort of exploration there, Geneva, I think, and.
Okay, so that must have been still tough on you and your siblings and mother, as the date became postponed again when you might see each other.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was not postponed. What was postponed and was tough was that Dad's flight back to Santa Fe was either delayed or Dad, I don't know, stopped off in a bar and missed his flight. I don't know. But anyway, so we were always sort of dumb. We were always downcast when he would be delayed like that. And those delays happened for several trips that he took. After that, he continued to be away a lot and was working as an electrician to put bread on the table. And so he was away a lot, really from the time I was probably about 2 years old until the time I was 14.
So, Russell, did I hear correctly that there's a whole range of different jobs that your father had? That first he was working with wells, is that correct?
Well, what he was doing, first of all, when he went to college in horticulture. He graduated right before World War II started. Dad had lost an eye in a childhood accident, so he was 4F and could not join the military. And so he didn't really have much of a way to earn a living. And earning a living as a horticulturist in those days, he at least didn't see the way to. Perhaps if he had worked with a food company or something, it might have worked. but I don't know that that occurred to him. Then he found that he could get himself a journeyman's license as an electrician, which he did. And so then he started moving from place to place as an electrician. First, in order to improve his skills, and second, to wherever he could find a better paying job, he'd take it. And so he would either go there or we would usually go there with him. Mm-hmm. Then we eventually settled. Then at the end of World War II, my mother had some kind of surgery or something in around February. So we children, my two sisters and I, were sent to my grandmother. My grandmother took care.
Russell, I'm going to pause you here because I'm concerned that we're not going to have enough time before 1. So I just wanted a rough summation of the different skill sets that your father had.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, so that's really why I asked. So let's.
He had two primarily. He had three skill sets.
Okay.
Number one, he was an outstanding public speaker, and when he was 15, he won an oratory prize, and then was at a couple of the international contests in Toastmasters. He was an electrician, and he was a horticulturist, landscape architect, and contractor.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that he was also a type of, that he had a type of wanderlust in that he was always drawn away for the exploration of something that he.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now let's go to the. It doesn't have to be the last memory you have of your father. It can be at any point in your lifespan of having your father nearby, or in a phone call or in a letter. You mentioned that one of the positives was getting those slides. So let's just take all these little pieces, because they'll become the building blocks of this prescriptive memory that we can.
What's the name? I forgot to put my cell phone on.
No problem.
I'll put it on airplane. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
Okay.
So the positive memory that I have of him went to visit him one time.
Where?
In the last 2 years before he died. He had prostate cancer. As part of his electrical work, Dad took part in about 7 nuclear tests out in Nevada. And I don't know if that led to his cancer or what. But anyway, he got prostate cancer and then died in about 89. So about 87, I went out to see him. We were driving in the car, and he asked me if I would do his funeral. And I started to cry because I said, Dad, that's a time when I need to be one of the people who's hearing the funeral, not conducting it. And so I'm very honored that you had asked me, but I don't think I don't know that I could really do that. So I think he was disappointed. And then after that, we went over to see one of his doctors.
Okay. This is moving into a positive memory?
Yes.
Okay. But
request was positive memory.
Okay. Request. So request is different from the actual experience. I want you to. I'm going to be even more specific now. So when you think of a positive memory, I want it to be something that actually is a moment where you felt warm in the moment. You felt the joy, the comfort, the satisfaction, the giggles, whatever it is, but not something hypothetical that out of principle was positive. Not the idea of it cannot be positive. The experience needs to be positive. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's just take a second and think of a memory where the experience is positive. And if you have to go back in time, go back much farther in time.
When I was about 12, I was, wait a minute. I went up to a church camp. We were in northern New Mexico, and I went up to a church camp in Colorado. And I had just got a small pig as part of a 4-H project. I thought I had the fence set up well for her. Well, I don't know. This probably isn't going to be a good example. Anyway,
this has to do with your father, right?
The pig got out, and Dad was running all over, chasing the pig. Finally got the pig back in and got the fence set up so that she couldn't get out. And so that was just a very warm time for me, even though, I just appreciated so much his putting himself out in that way for me.
How did you feel right at the moment?
Well, I didn't find out about it till I got back, and right at that moment, my first feeling was, oh, wonderful. And then I was kind of embarrassed that I hadn't done my part. Okay. But I was just so delighted that Dad had stepped up.
Okay, that's different. You see how it's so, we have to keep, telescoping in on a memory where it's not the idea of your father being generous, but rather right, and you reflecting on that generosity, but rather in the moment, you could not stop laughing. The two of you were laughing together, or it has to be a moment between the two of you, or it could be something that you observed in your father that made you laugh. It does not. Let's say, for example, he has a quirk, which it sounds like he had quite a few. What about that quirk would always make you, like, the corners of your mouth lift into a smile?
Mm-hmm. Just about all of my memories of him have some tinge of ambivalence.
Just take a second. Don't rush into anything. And again, if there was something that actually you and your mother disapproved of, or you disapproved of, but it made you sort of shake your head and go, that is really unbelievable. Not in the sense like, what a nerve, but more like, this, nobody would even believe this, that this is happening in front of me, or just the absurdity, the tragic comedy, the black humor of it against you as well. So this one is going to be a challenge. That's why I love it. It's not that easy.
Well, we'll try again.
Yeah.
When I was 12, 11 or 12, I signed up for the original oratory contest in 4-H for the annual convention, the summer camp. I was having trouble writing it, and so I said, Dad, you're a good speechwriter, so why don't you write this? So he wrote the speech for me, and then I won the state, I quote, unquote, won the state championship. But it was with his speech. But I felt particularly blessed because I had gotten this big favor from him. Okay. Does that count?
It's again. This is generosity. But now I'm going to ask you, just to test it, whether this might indeed be the memory. At what point in asking him, in watching him write it, in having him deliver it to you and put it in your hands and whatever he said to you, during those moments when you were actually with him, with his speech making, or even after you won the award and you exchanged some dialogue, when did you have the highest crest of positive emotion?
Well, it was right after I got the award, and I was elated. We may have called home.
Who's we?
My sister was there also for her own contest. She was doing.
Oh, I see. So you didn't remember specifically whether you spoke to your father on the phone?
That's correct. I don't.
All right, disqualified.
Well, okay, but so then once again, this is one where I don't have a memory, and I would have to create it.
Yes. Okay.
And that would be when I got back home, and we shared the plaque that I got from 4-H.
But you don't remember that. You don't remember even. You see, it's one thing to say, I have a really good feeling about that memory, but I can't see it. But what I'm hearing is that you can't see it or feel it. How about
one?
Whoa.
I can't see it or hear it.
Yeah, that moment when you came back with the plaque and you put it in his hands. Do you remember that?
No. Okay. Let's try another one.
Yeah, let's try another one.
When I was 7, Dad was growing. In the summer I was 7. Dad was growing apples and other fruit on a property that he leased in Santa Cruz, New Mexico, and he needed to spray the trees with DDT, and I was fortunate enough in my eyes to be able to drive the tractor for him while he sprayed the trees. That was a real sense of bonding and connection with him. And so he would be taking the sprayer and pointing it up to the trees, and I would be driving the tractor where he needed it to go. And that was an exciting experience. The other thing was the feel of the droplets of the spray on myself. The cool feel was really, really cool.
The cool feel of DDT.
Exactly.
This is a great memory. This is it. We hit the jackpot. So now we're going to, we've got the droplets, the cool feel of the droplets. Tell me the proximity between yourself and your dad, physical proximity.
It would vary from really very close to he might be 20 to 30 feet away at the end of the hose. But it would come and go.
Uh-huh. Now, would he come and go to were you like in a cab, in a sense?
No, this was back in the day of, before they had cabs for tractors.
Okay.
And this was a little International Harvester tractor called a Farmall Cub. And it's one that had 4 wheels sort of in truck orientation rather than in like a tricycle orientation. But it was really cool. I loved that tractor and loved being able to drive it. And I loved being able to do that thing with my dad.
Yes. And tell me what you remember, how your dad was interacting with you. Anything you can remember. The smallest things, like even just looking back at you, or checking in to see how you're doing, or asking if you need relief.
Well, thinking, no special memories of that. They're just ones I would have to assume happened. But the big memory that I have is just a feeling of pride and of closeness.
Yes.
Now, you know, there's another thing that happened when I was about 15, 16. I went to Boys State and was in my particular state at Boys State. I was a candidate for governor, and that was a really exciting time, and got up all the way to the final interviews for Boys Nation. And Dad was very proud of me when I came home from that. And
how do you know? Well, how did he express it?
oh, he would. I was going to. He had a client. We were doing some installing a lawn for a client of his, and I was dragging a board contraption that helped to smooth out the lawn and level it. So I was driving the tractor doing that, and then he was talking to this client of his, I think was a different person than the owner, about how smart and prominent and so forth I had been at Boys State. He was really popping his buttons on that.
That is terrific.
And that one, there's no ambivalence about that one in terms of things like DDT falling on me.
So now you're a grown man, though. You're how old now?
About 16.
So about 16, and and you're driving the tractor now for 8 years, and he was taking the client on the truck with him.
No, the client was at the location.
Oh, it was by phone. He was talking to a client by phone.
Where we were installing the lawn.
Yeah.
So Dad and I were at this client's house.
Because you were saying I was driving the tractor and he was talking to a client, and so I'm just trying to. The client was just there on the ground, right?
Yes.
There on the ground. Okay.
Right.
And he
I
was
heard him talking about me and how cool it was that I had all this prominence in Boys State.
That's a big deal. That is a big deal. And I love the expression "popping his buttons." How was your dad popping his buttons different from other times? What actually, can you remember how your father expresses his pride physically? Because you knew his face pretty well and his gestures.
Well, he would get a kind of a grin, and it would sometimes tend to have a little bit of a grimace, but there would be a kind of a grin on his face. And then when that would happen, it would be, in a sense, like a pure, honest grin, not mixed with any kind of other uncomfortable feelings. Oh, his first name is Bill.
Mm-hmm.
His name is William Joseph, and my name is Joseph Russell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And did you ever think about that, about his, about sharing the name as well?
Well, I think about it a lot. I've never had figured out anything about it. And
what do you think?
The one thing about it was, Dad was very proud of family names, and Russell was one of the family names, and so he wanted me to be Joseph Russell, but they called me Russell, and eventually that became J. Russell Burr.
J? And then
J, yeah, J for Joseph.
Yeah.
Well, I have a first initial that I use.
Yeah.
J. Russell Burr.
Got it. Okay. I think this is a good memory, number 5. So I think that's quite strong. We haven't talked about the kind of day it was. Would you like to give me a little bit of background? We know that it wasn't raining, but what kind of day was it in your mind, and what kind of landscape was this? We were where now? Still in
We
what
were
state?
we were in Trenton, New Jersey.
In New Jersey?
We moved to New Jersey when I was 14.
Okay, and where was this? What town?
Trenton,
Oh,
New
Trenton.
Jersey,
Got it. I'm sorry, I could not hear you earlier. Trenton.
and
And
Trenton, Renton.
yep.
And in Trenton, um, let me see, we were at the home of a kind of an affluent person, and it was not too. It was a warm day, but it was not too hot, and
Sky.
I generally wore a t-shirt, and so I had a t-shirt on, and there was some dust in the air, but it wasn't terrible. Um, I'm thinking there was probably a little breeze to help clear the dust, but it wasn't an oppressive thing. But the thing I was sort of, after a while, it kind of got a little bit old for me that Dad was going on and on about this. It got a little bit embarrassing for me. But at the same time, I felt really proud that Dad would talk about me like that.
Yeah.
I didn't ever remember him talking about me like that before, even though we had taken part in declamation contests in northern New Mexico, in which we had won the prizes.
Yeah.
And he had helped us prepare for those presentations. But that was never as exciting as this boy state thing.
Can you remember some of the things that he brought up about you to the client? So where he wrote the speech in the previous one, right? Where we talked, but in this one, it sounds like it really was all in your court. And yeah, so what did he? It was almost like he recognized your intelligence, your native intelligence, for the first time, or what do you think? And now that you look back.
Well, I think that he not only recognized my intelligence, but I think that he recognized some sort of relationship building ability that I had, that I think I had never known about before. I myself was astonished to find out that I was getting as much of a response from my peers in Boys State. So that was one thing. I think he was excited that I'd had that kind of impact. There was sort of an undercurrent of, this is going to be like a politician. Russ is going to be, in a sense, like a politician, but I think he had, with the emphasis on policy maker, and not simply on the interactions with voters.
And how did that make you feel? The idea that you could be a potential politician one day.
It was mixed. On the one hand, it was wonderful because there was the recognition that I had done something that was unusual for me. At school, I tended to be kind of sort of the bullied kid a lot, even though I was clearly intelligent and got good grades and that kind of thing. But I still get picked on a lot.
Okay.
Then in this situation, there was like unequivocal affirmation.
Yes. Yes,
with my peers, And that's I think what Dad was picking up, and I think he was kind of I can only my imagination of it is that he was imagining me in that situation with these people. Now, the reason that was a little bit of a disjointed for me was that when I was 12, maybe at the camp in which my pig got out, I did what was called committed myself to full-time Christian service, and that particular commitment never left me. So all during my career as a minister and as a hospital chaplain, I always kind of had that particular commitment in mind and had the question, am I living up to it? And so the idea of becoming a politician was something that I didn't know how to merge with that commitment.
At least at that age, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. All right. So now let's move to we have just a few minutes before 1 o'clock. Do you have a few minutes to devote to the prescriptive
Yes.
memory? Okay. Marvelous. So I want to think about this for a second. By the way, I meant one outstanding question is, what was your father wearing that day? You wore the T-shirt. What did he wear?
Dad would wear khakis, and he was wearing a khaki shirt.
He almost
and khaki pants and work boots.
Almost like how you would dress in Israel on a kibbutz, huh? Kind of in that kind of look. Okay, all right.
And this was sort of the work uniform.
Work uniform, yeah. Did he have a logo by any chance?
No.
Mm-hmm.
He may have, but I don't remember it.
Okay, I just want to make sure because that's something we could look up if we had it.
That's interesting because my own logo is, in a sense, the way I think about his is just primarily my name. My logo is Russell Burke Intuitive Consulting.
Oh.
And so I don't quite have the graphics of that finished, but that's what it'll be.
Oh, I would like you to send that as one of your first images. Your logo in progress. That would be very interesting.
I'll do that.
Because, well, so look how interesting that is. How your father is entwined in your life goal, in your logo, in your how should I say your promise to yourself to stay authentic, right?
Yeah, that's been very important. Actually, that's even more important than I've said so far. Because
what's important? Repeat that for me.
Being authentic.
Mm.
For you, when I went back to my youth group and I told the youth group leader about this, and she said, "Well, I just hope you're not like those other boys who say that and then don't do it." That really stung me, and I carried that with me throughout my whole career. When I retired, I thought about having a business, and eventually found myself taking hand analysis as a way to learn my life purpose.
Oh.
Okay, and so that's the connection all the way back to my commitment.
But wait a second, I'm not making that connection. 1 minute. So you picked hand analysis to confirm your life purpose,
or to find it,
or to find it. I mean, you had an idea what it was, didn't you? A little bit at that point, because you always had felt that you were in the right place in terms of your spiritual following, right? Following your faith tradition.
I had never had the kind of sense that I have now. Now, for example, that I've learned this intuitive healing, I feel like I'm in the right place.
Right. Okay. So, what would your father say about your intuitive work now? How do you think he would Would you be able to describe it to him without him having any negative reactions, or maybe to or even to not be able to comprehend it?
I believe I'd be able to. I believe I'd be able to describe it to him, and what I would do is to describe the process. Okay, so if we talk about intuitive angelic miracle healing, we break that down into pieces. Angelic means there are forces involved that we're not necessarily usually aware of, but they're present all the time. And here is an example. I could give him an example.
Wait. I love what I'm going to stop you for a second because I like this business of breaking it down. So, how would you describe intuitive to your father?
Intuitive means
To your
I know
father,
things.
what would
I
you
know
say?
things without knowing how I know them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and
You explained
so
angelic.
I beg your pardon.
You explained angelic. Now let's take the two other words that are part of your new profession and break it down for your father.
Okay, and for my father, I would say, hey, Dad, you used to tell me that you used to talk to me as if I didn't need to be told stuff. And I think that what you recognized back then is that I would often intuit things. You didn't understand that. I didn't understand that. But I think that's what was happening. Now I can give you a current example of intuition. When I was in a heavy undertow and heavy waves in Miami, I knew about riptides, and they frightened me. But in this case, I did not get frightened because my intuition said, if you get knocked down again, don't get up, but crawl to the shore. When the wave is over you, obviously, don't breathe. When it recedes, breathe, but always keep crawling. And from that, I never panicked. I had a feeling of confidence that I would make it. That's an example of intuition.
Okay.
I have a lot of other examples.
No, that's good enough. So we have intuitive, we have angelic. What are the two other words in the professional name of your
miracle? Miracle has to do with unexpected, some kind of surprise, and healing.
A positive. I mean, of a unexpected positive outcome, right?
Oh, correct.
Okay. And then what's the fourth word?
There are two other words. One is healing, and the other is readings. Okay. Readings have to do with like reading a person's aura and chakras, and seeing where there are where things are whole and pretty well contained.
Could you explain that to your father in that way?
I would have to explain aura and chakras to him, but okay. I would have to say what I can do. Well, let me try it another way. A person, I would do like an intuitive reading with somebody, and they would name a problem, and we would talk about it, and my intuition would give me some guidance about what they needed. And I would say that. Usually my intuition asks also, what does your intuition tell you about this? And their intuition says something very important.
So how is this? I'm going to be devil's advocate. I'll be your dad. What if he said, but son, that's just like a gut feeling. What's the difference?
No difference. The thing is, until I understood intuition in this way, I didn't even know what a gut feeling was. I thought, I cannot describe this.
Oh, okay. All right.
So let me give you a different example. I did a reading for a woman. She was having her son was 14, and she was saying, he's getting to an age where he doesn't want to talk to me all the time. And I need to be able to talk with him some. And so what should I do about that? And I said, talk to him. I have no idea where that came from. It was just talk to him. And the meaning of that was, tell him that he is growing up and getting to an age where he's not going to want to talk with her so much. she still has responsibilities and wants him to know he has her back. She has his back. So, once she understood that, she could say, "Oh, I can talk that over," and she did, and it worked out.
Okay. All right. So let's go back because you're getting off at 1:30, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let me focus because we'll
I
give
need
you
to
this
get off
time.
about probably 1:25.
Okay, because we lost so much time because of the technology. What I want to do is that I want to simultaneously collect the images that we have from our selected memory, and also integrate other images, and if we have to, stand-in images if you don't have them available. So right now we have. We have sort of a picture of the setting in Trenton, and we never talked about the style, the architectural style of the house. Even though that sounds like a superficial thing, uh, it will ground the memory and bring you back to that moment if we can locate it. Do you have any idea of whether that was a ranch house or something multi story? That was a little bit more elaborate.
It was a ranch house, and it had a kind of like a um, a gable over the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd go through and go under this sort of this sort of angled, you know, sort of like half half of a quadrangle.
Yeah.
When you go into the house, and then vertical. I think it was a brick house.
Oh, a brick ranch house. That's good. So that was it. The red brick or the tan brick?
It was tan.
Tan. Okay, perfect. And the day we realized it was just a gray sky or particularly blue.
It was kind of like it was a washed out blue.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. We have. Would it be possible to find a photograph of yourself around that age of 15 or 16, and also one of your father?
It would be hard.
Okay, would be hard. Okay, that's all right. So if that's hard, then we can do something different, something more representational. I think we have to represent the other, the person that he was talking to, and that house can still represent the person we're talking to, that affluence, and we can show a shadow of that client on the lawn, for example, right? And so that was a freshly laid lawn. Did it come in rolls?
No, it was freshly made in the sense that we were preparing to plant seeds.
Oh, so it was just raw earth.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So right now, you were basically using hose? Not hose, rakes,
We were using what was called a float, and a float is an arrangement of boards that's dragged over the surface to smooth it out.
Right, to make it level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we can have some reflection of that. The client that he was talking to, do you remember if he was dressed formally, in a sort of 1950s suit or not?
No, he was in either some kind of dark slacks or jeans, and he was wearing. I remember him as wearing a short sleeved shirt.
Mm-hmm. I mean more of a white collar
yes.
appearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was he wearing a hat?
I don't remember it. I don't remember a hat. If
Would,
anything, I remember like a baseball cap.
would your father have been wearing a baseball cap?
Yeah, no,
No.
Dad would have worn a hat.
What kind of a hat?
Um,
Like a
Dad,
like a.
Dad,
Mhm.
Dad tended to wear hats that he might have worn a straw hat because it was in the sun.
Okay.
But he tended to wear hats that were rather dressy. And when I was in college, he got me a very dressy hat.
But as he was working, he would more likely wear the straw hat, right?
Correct.
Okay, got you. All right, now the other thing is the logo in progress. It would be interesting to see in what style you're selecting the name. I think that would be very interesting for me. And then I want to see how we can bring in when you were talking to that camp official who said, you said that it stung you, that she was warning. I just hope that you're not like those other boys. Um, so the boy that you aspired to be was. Do you see something in front of you as an image of? Was there, for example, a statue, a boys' nation? What do they call that? Boys' nation, boys.
Well, no, that's a completely different thing.
But I'm just wondering
The,
if there was
the
like
boy,
ever a statue or painting.
I beg your pardon?
I was wondering if there was ever a statue or a painting of the sort of perfect boy
No,
that stands out to you.
there might have been at Boys State. I don't know. I imagine there was, but I don't remember it. The There was. Let me see. What I remember when I don't know if this is where you want to go. So tell me what you'd like me to work on next.
I think that I just wanted to know. I wanted to represent that time in your life uh, where authenticity is so important to you, and I was wondering if we can represent it symbolically in some way, because there may have been a figure, uh, uh, representational figure that you once saw, that was aspirational for you. Uh, and so I'm just exploring that.
My guess is that it would have been uh, church, school, colored drawings or paintings of apostles like Paul. It might have been painting or some of Jesus. Um, I think it might have been some sort of. I think probably Peter is the favorite, my favorite apostle.
Why? What is it about him?
Well, the first thing I was going to say is because he's impulsive. He was impulsive. He was, I think he was kind of loud. He was not not constrained by sort of social norms. He would argue with Jesus, and I was also like an arguer, but also down deep he was fundamentally persuaded and committed.
Well, there you picked another favorite memory. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's terrific.
And
now,
so when my wife and I had our child, the first name we gave him was Peter.
You gave him a figurine, or what do you mean you gave
No,
him?
the name. We gave him.
Oh, we gave him the name of Peter. Mm-hmm.
We call him Peter.
Okay, good. All right, well that's definitely an important influence. All right, so we have a couple of things here that we can meld. So we have the setting, we have the washed out blue sky, and the reflection of you, or just more, maybe more importantly, just if it's from your view, your dad and client's shadow across the ground. And then thinking about the logo is just additional. I just want to see what kind of information it telegraphs to me. And then Peter, marvelous. Peter, who cannot be bullied by anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's terrific. And so this image, if you can allow me to make it, and we can work on it together with you, keep giving me feedback, then that would become your resource. That would become what's called the Dreamscape. And
Well, that's really cool. I like that, and I'm beginning to visualize something of the house, the tractor, the man talking with my father, the sky. I don't know what else goes in there, but I'm beginning to visualize that.
And maybe just the simplicity of it is all that's needed. By the way, would you like to start it in the sense of finding images for me, or would you like me to guess at what that Trenton house might look like, and send you pictures? I mean, how would you like to work? Because I call it a dance of co-creation, and it's always best.
Mm-hmm.
If you like to do a search, that would be very helpful, and we'd be more accurate that way as I begin.
Okay. Let me do that. And what kind of time frame are you thinking about?
The time frame is totally open when you can get to it in little bits and pieces. And,
Okay.
And
We'll pull some things together in the next few days, but right now I'm busy getting my website
no,
done.
absolutely. You make your website your number one concern. The final minutes that I'd like to spend with you is, what do you think happened here today? Would you like to give it back to me in your own words?
First, you kind of help pair off ideas and thinking from the feeling images. You reconnected me, I reconnected with a couple of positive memories of my father. And I haven't mentioned how proud I felt of my father for going to Saudi Arabia and going as a consultant there in agriculture. I have a lot of pride about that. The whole business of getting back to driving tractors and stuff, that was a nice recovered memory. The emphasis on the feelings associated with the memories. I think that's about it.
Okay, and terrific. And then the proof will be in the pudding, as they say, as you look at this more concretized and integrated memory, and see what it does for you.